Welcome back, my fine friends. We're getting there. We're getting closer. This was where we left off in video 4. Video 5, we're going to pretty much do everything we can to sort of finalize how we want this to look. So I pulled up the old mock-up. We've got a ways to go. The first thing I want to cover in this video is getting fonts in place, because that's going to make a big difference. Then we're going to add style sheets. We're going to remove the background color. We're going to change it to white. And then let's add some rounded corners and background colors. I think we can do all of that today in one relatively short video. So without further ado, let's talk fonts. Okay, you can use system fonts, but it's a little bit limited. So my recommendation is what we do is, let me show you. I recommend we get some Google fonts. And I've already selected Knee-Wave is one of the ones we're using. And then I'm going to add Roboto. I would like to put out one word of warning. When you're looking for fonts, you're going to need to pick ones that are static. So be careful. If it says it's a variable font, you're going to need to look for another one. As far as I know, there's no workaround to it. And then once you select them, then you want to download them. So I'm going to go ahead and download these. It's going to create this zip folder. And so I'm just going to open the folder. And with the zip file, you've got to extract it or this won't work. At least I don't think it will. So I'm going to extract my files and then I am going to extract it right in here. And I'm going to copy these two folders and I'm going to move them into the project folder. So in order to do that, I want to get my code open over here. Wrong one. Over here. And I'm going to right click on the resources folder and reveal in File Explorer. And in resources, I'm going to add a folder called fonts. And in fonts, I'm just going to paste those two folders. I'm going to leave them as is, but we do want to keep track of the path to these files. So now under resources, you can see fonts and Knee-Wave and Roboto. Oh, look at this. Roboto, we've got a lot. Is this the one I'm doing? Yes, it is the one I'm doing. So we have a lot here. I might not use them all. I'm probably just going to focus on Roboto regular for now, because I don't think I need to do anything beyond that. For now, I'm going to keep it there, and then later on I can decide to delete them. I would recommend you keep the license in place just in case. It's just good practice. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and add our fonts. So in order to do this, we need to add a couple objects, and they are related to fonts, and it's part of what's called the GUI core, which is just fun to say. Anyway, okay, so from PyQt6 dot, I think it's just Qt GUI import, and then I'm going to go ahead and list them out, and then if I come up with too many, QFont, there's QFont and QFont database. And that's all I need for now. And okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a method that will set our fonts. So after I do the resize, I'm going to try self.set fonts. All right. And then that is, I don't need to put anything in here. I'm just going to set the fonts, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go down and we're going to add that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Go over here, enter, DEF, I'm going to paste. And notice when I called it, I put self dot. If you're not familiar, in class methods, you then stick self inside of here, just like you saw there. All right. To save time, I'm going to code it in fast motion and then explain what I coded after the fact. All right, everybody, this is what I did. I set the directory of the font to be resources/fonts, so that's where I put them. And then I created one variable for each font name, and that was just the name of the font. Now, I guess I could have combined those into the knee_wave. It didn't really make a big difference, but this is the way I did it. I'm sticking to it. So then I created a full path by combining the font directory, which you notice I used here and up here. That's why I created it as a separate one. That makes sense. And then I added the name of the font and this, right? So I added that to get a full path to each of the fonts. And they're the single font. True type font is a good file type for fonts. And then we try to add the fonts, but it's possible that we have a fail. So we create this variable called success, and we set it to the attempt of adding the application font. If it's unsuccessful, it gives us a -1, and I just decided to do a print statement to notify us of the fact so that we can know if it was one or both fonts that failed, which is why I did it twice. Anyway, so that was how I did it. If you saw I made a mistake in there, you probably saw I opened it or whatever. That's because I accidentally put the font name when I tried to add the application font. You need that full path like there. And that's how you can set your fonts. I put it in a function, in a method, but it could have just as easily gone in the constructor. But I think it just gets harder to work on your code if everything is in one big giant constructor. Set fonts does one job, and it does the job, I think, fairly well. Same thing over here, and now it should work. It should work without me having to run it, but let's just go ahead and try it now. And there it is. We know it works. Okay, so we set the font. Let's go ahead and now that we got that successful, let's set it to all of the titles in the icon. Okay, it's on the add text right here. So we're going to put this on its own line, Q font. Oh, wait. Yeah, okay, whatever. And then we're just going to put knee wave, and we'll put it we'll try a 12-point font. Let's save our changes, and let's run it again. And there we go. Look, pixel art, Lorelei bot. That looks pretty good. A little bit small, a little bit hard to read. So let's try 14. Hopefully it doesn't break the layout. And we'll try running that. Okay, we're getting a little bit of issue with some of these. Well, I got it to this point where I just kind of played around with it. Some of these don't work quite right. It has to do with just the different sizes of it. I think maybe I need to go back in and resave some of these because I wonder if some of these got modified and changed in their size. It may be this is as good as we can get. I'm just going to move on though for time's sake because we want to add some more. Now we want to add some style sheets to this. Okay, to add style sheets, this is actually relatively simple. We're actually going to go down to our project down here where we create the app in the window. All right, so what we're going to do is, now there's a lot of different ways you can set styles. You could take a widget and set style sheet. For example, if I wanted to on here, I believe it was, I think it's, oh yeah, one thing to note, this is really important here. When it comes to style sheets, you can only apply them to widgets, not to layouts. So you have to be a little careful here. So we technically, when we created our icon widgets, you could on here type self dot pixel icon, for example, dot set style sheet. So you can add a style sheet to an icon. Of course, that's not going to make as much sense, but you can do that for widgets as long as it's a widget. I don't think you can do it for a layout. Let's see, layout dot set style. No, see, it doesn't pop up, right? So only if it lets you add the style sheet. Actually, I think we want it that way. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to add it as a style sheet in our resources path. So we have our fonts, we have our images. We're going to add directly in resources, we're going to add our style sheet. You could have one called styles if you wanted. Let's go ahead and follow that format. You put on here, oops, wrong folder. I want to click here, new folder, styles. All right, this would only be if you have, my voice cracked. Only if you're going to have multiple style sheets might you do this, but that's okay. We're going to go in here. And now in our style folder, we're just going to call it, it's like a CSS file, but it's a QSS. You know what? I'm going to actually get rid of that folder. I'm going to change it to a file. So I'm just going to delete. Yeah. And I'm going to go back to resources, have it selected, new file, and we'll call it styles.qss. Okay, this works just like a style sheet. So if we want to change the Q widget, it's our main Q widget. And I think this becomes the default for all Q widgets. Let's see if we can do this. Background dash color FF. Save our changes, refresh. Okay, widgets. Let's see, what else do we have? That's not seeming to work. Let me stop this. Oh, because we haven't added it. I'm sorry. So we need to test this out. And so in order to do that, we're going to actually have to go all the way down to the bottom here. This is what I was going to talk about. And let's save our changes and try running it. There we go. Now all the background is the same color. So from here on out, we can now do our styles. Okay, we got our style sheet. That's your code that you want to do to add the style sheet. Just make sure you're putting it and you have the right path that I have right there. Okay, so now I'm going to fast forward the rest because we're low on time. And I'm just going to code it out and test it, and you can just see it in fast motion. Okay, so I added just a couple minor changes here. EMs are not being registered, so keep that in mind if you're doing padding. I would do it in pixels then instead, 4px, and then maybe like 12px. And I'm not even sure if that works, but notice font size, I changed it from EMs to pixels also. So the padding on here, we'll put it as 4px. And we're looking anywhere else, save our changes. This is changing all generic widgets. This is for the buttons in the line edit. I added a background color, border radius, padding, etc. And then I overrode it on the push button to change the background color only. I wanted the rest the same. Okay. And then Q label and the icon widget. I tried a text align center, border color, padding, color. And so let's just run it and see what we got. And there we go. So we can write our text in here. Notice how it's faint, but then if I add something like 100 vision sky. All right. So there are just one last thing remaining, and that's to create a little web version of this avatar. I'm going to save that for the programming aspect. How to get it so when we click a button here, it changes the avatar here. So we'll do that as the next part. It's going to take at least 2 more videos to get all of the programming features in place. Hopefully not 3, but you never know. Thank you so much for watching, though, and definitely stay tuned for more because there is more on the way.